Alright everybody, we're working on a 2002 Toyota Camry 2.4 liter, and the bearing just completely went the heck out, and it was making a crazy sound. It's making like a screeching sound or whatnot. It sounded like the brakes were grinding metal to metal. I checked the brakes, it wasn't the brakes, so yeah, it was that bearing inside there. And anyway, that bearing is a press-in bearing, and it was going to be pretty hard to take out, I think. So I didn't even chance it. I just went to the junkyard. I got this bad boy over here. That's a good one with a decent bearing, I hope. Well, it looks like. And I want to explain to you the process on what I had to do to take this stuff off, because yeah, it got pretty crazy. Anyways, so I had to take off the wheel, and then mine has some special lug nuts, so you can figure out what yours. I had to use a special tool to take mine off. But anyway, I took off the wheel. You could figure that out. And then what I did after I took off the wheel was I started loosening up everything. So I loosened up these bolts right here that are to the strut and the shock. And those, what I used to loosen those, I used a 7/8 wrench on one side, and then on the other side I used I think I used another 7/8. Here it is right here. I used a 7/8 socket, a 1/2 inch socket with a 1/2 inch ratchet. So you need a 7/8. Well, at least that's what I used, and it worked for me. I think it's a 22 as well will work. But anyway, that's what I used to take off these. There's really no pressure on it if you got it lifted up. If you got the car lifted up like I do, I got it on jack stands on both sides. There shouldn't be any pressure on it, so nothing crazy should happen. And once you take out these two bolts right here, you're on this knuckle right here. When it's on there, in order to take out those two bolts, you need to push the knuckle like that and wiggle them out with your right hand, and then they'll come out, and nice and safe. And then what I'm working on now is all right. So after you take off the these bolts right here to the strut, what you're gonna do, this is like a 12mm bolt right here to loosen these lines and stuff. I got my I took off my caliper. I didn't take off the 14mm bolts. I took off these bolts that are right here. They connect right here on the knuckle, and those were, I think they were like a 19mm. No, they were a 17. They were a 17mm. Here's my 17mm right here. But that's what I used to take off these ones right here, and there they are right there. Those that big boy right there. Or no, the one right next to the big one. That's my top one. Those are my top bolts, and these are my bottom bolts. I have them kind of organized somewhat. Anyways, and then I put that screw back after I took off that 12mm. So, let me think here. So after I loosened these bolts, what I did was took off these bolts to the caliper bracket to take off the whole caliper and the bracket. And like I said, that's right here on the knuckle. Those are the 17mm. So after I loosened those up and took those off, what I did too was I had somebody hold the brakes. Before I took off the brakes, I had somebody hold the brakes to take off the axle nut, the one that goes here. And you can pretty much see what the heck just happened, and it was nuts. Anyways, though, so that before I took off the brakes, that was one thing I did, was I had somebody hold on the brakes, and then I just pushed it real hard. And at You Pull and Pay at the junkyard, I didn't have anybody to do that, so I'm going to show you what I did over here. So basically, to take this one off, I didn't have anybody to hold the brakes, so I got like a bolt like this I found on the floor, and then I smashed it through there like that. I smashed it all the way through, and then it kind of like got stuck on this. You can see it's a little bit bented up. It kind of like caught it, and then I was able to take off the axle nut. So that's a pretty good mission, and good luck with that one. It was possible. So I did it, and then the axle nut is gonna be, it's kind of shaped like I don't know where the heck it is. It's shaped like this. So you're gonna need a 30mm axle nut tool. Those cost like 18 or 19 bucks at O'Reilly's. And then so yeah, that's how I got off the axle nut, those two ways. And then so once I cranked off the axle nut, which was pretty crazy, as you can tell, I think after I cranked off the axle nut, I took off the brakes. So make sure nobody's pushing the brakes while you take off the brakes, because then you're gonna kill your caliper. The cylinder is gonna push out. So when you have your caliper off, make sure nobody pushes the brakes. Take it from my advice, from experience. It sucks. Anyways, so yeah, once I took off the brakes, so after I took off the axle nut, I gave it a good smack right here with the hammer. There's smarter ways to do it, but usually it just comes out with the hammer. You spray DW40 on it. I didn't have no DW40, so I just gave it a good smack, like a good 2 of them. It came right out, and then the whole knuckle was still on there. And basically, so my caliper, I took it off. I hung it up with the bungee cord, and then what I did was I took off the whole knuckle. So what next you have to do is you have to loosen your tie rod. So when you loosen it, you turn it this way, going left, and then after you get it loose from here, what you're gonna have to do is smack it right here on this with the hammer, and if you're lucky, it'll just come out. You want to give it some good smacks. The heavier the hammer, the easier it is. And anyways, and then it'll pop out of there. And then that was a 17mm to take off too, and then you take off the cotter pin or whatnot, and it comes off. So that was that. And then yeah, we had already took off the brake caliper and everything. And anyways, so after that, the only thing next was to take off was the ball joint, and as you can see, the ball joint came off from right here. And I had to go under there with the 17mm and then pull it back this way. And we broke off those, and then that's that right there that you can see, the ball joint. And what I'm doing now is, this is something I really wanted to show you. So what I'm going to do now is, so the spindles on the other side, I mean let's see if you can see it. So this is how we're going to get off this. This is going to be pretty crazy to get off too sometimes when you don't know. Anyways, so this, the spindle, or whatever they call it, the knuckle, we're going to put that back in the holes over here, like this. And then that's going to give us a little bit of stability. And then we're going to take a good breaker bar, like this one we got over here, and for that nut, it's going to be a 19mm, and there's a cotter pin on there that I took off. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this with one hand. So I got it inside there, and it's putting pressure on the studs, actually. So once I got it on there like that, let's see if I can get it holding the phone and with you guys checking it out. Alright, so what I'm going to do first, it's not working. So what I got to do first is I'm going to put in this puppy right here, the rotor, and I'm going to line it up here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this puppy in there. I'm going to take off my breaker bar, doing this one-handed, bear with me. And then so that's what we're going to do. We're just going to slap everything in there like this. And then we put our breaker bar and stuff on here. That's going to give us a little bit more stability, I hope, from what I remember. And then basically with your breaker bar, you just give it a good, like that. And then that was it, guys. That's all she wrote. And then so that's off, and that's how to take off. That's how to loosen and tighten the ball joint bolt, the nut on there. So that's it. You got to take off the cotter pin, and then that's it. It's off, guys. And so that's how to do all that stuff. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take off this ball joint, put it on the other assembly, and then that's it. I'm going to reverse all these steps. So once I put that ball joint on this other assembly, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to tighten up all the bolts on the ball joint and to the knuckle. And then I'm just going to get that bad boy and slap it on here. I'm going to slap it on here, right here where it goes. And then I'm going to shove our CV back in there. And then I'm going to try to put some, I'm going to try to push it like this, the knuckle, and put the bolts in here. And that'll have it lined up pretty much and sitting on the lower control arm like we want. Then I'm going to put the tie rod in. And then after that, I'm going to tighten up all these little things up here. And then I'm going to put these bolts for the bracket of the caliper, the one that holds the caliper in place. These are to take off the brakes. Anyways, I'm going to tighten those bolts back on there. Those are the 17 millimeters. And everything, sometimes when I don't want to look up torque specs and stuff and it's my own vehicle, I just do everything really dang tight. But most of the time I like to keep it as safe as possible when I look up the torque specs on the internet. You could do the same thing for your car. Anyways, that's basically where I'm headed. And this bad boy, don't tighten it too tight because you might have to cut it off. They come with a cotter pin to lock it in place. And then I'm going to put my wheel back on, and then I'll let you guys know how it goes. I just wanted to show you guys those tips. That's pretty much how to replace, how to get to like a tie rod or get halfway to the CV axle. The CV axle, all you got to do is take off this bracket back here, and then the whole CV axle will just come right out. You might have to smack it out. If you're going to do your shock, you know, all you got to do is, once you come this far, you got to do is take off this little link right here. This is the sway bar, one of the sway bar end links or something like that. You take that off, and then your strut and shock's pretty much already there. Then all you got to do is, I'd show you, but there's like 3 or 4 bolts up here and maybe one in the middle. You take those off, it just falls right out. And that's pretty much how to do any of the stuff that I just mentioned. And as for this puppy right here, it's all jacked up. We need a freaking new axle, but you know what? Heck with it, we're going to send it. So hopefully, I don't have any kind of rethreading device, or else that'll be golden. We'll get through this easily with excellence, but we don't got that. So I'm just gonna, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might just get I got another axle nut in here somewhere. Here it is right here. This is the one from the junkyard. And I'm just gonna try to slap this puppy on there and give it a good tighten to heck. This is our old one right here. When I took this thing off, it was hot and all kinds of other stuff. That's how much tension was going on. Anyways, that's pretty much how to do that. That's pretty much how to take off that killer bolt. That'll have you thinking critically. And then that's pretty much it, folks. To do this, you don't really need to press it in. All you got to do is go get another one from the junkyard, like this one, with the little 1-month warranty. And that's all you need, folks. Or speed it a little bit. And anyways, I'll make a part 2 to let you know, to show you how the vehicle sounded and how it sounds now. And it's going to sound great after we get this taken care of.